So Batouly, I'm
Yes.
stretching,
Yes.
I'm getting my shoulders out. I'm expanding the chest. Sorry. So it's known through the grapevine that I'm, quote, the icebreaker king. Now, this is not a
100%.
self-titled title. I did not put this on. This was just the people. The people gave me this title. I am just a common man at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
usually we start with an icebreaker to quote unquote break the ice.
Right.
And today's icebreaker that I'm going to ask you before we dive into the meat of our conversation, led by the great Chinny Nwagbo, is what message would you put on a billboard that thousands of people could see every day? What would be your message?
Until we all got it, none of us got it.
Oh, wow. Are we gonna, is this house gonna be the whole way through? Or are we gonna have drop the mic moments from
I shouldn't be sitting in a chair. I should be laying on the floor at this point. That was incredible.
I need to grab my pen. There you go. That's it.
Get that tattooed on my body.
Get it tattooed now.
That's and I always ask, awesome. What's the colorway of your billboard? Like, what's the color scheme? Is it simple? Are you going a little bit more extravagant? What's the aesthetic?
Till we all have it.
The aesthetic, we're gonna go like an ombre effect from like a yellow, a bright yellow to like a deep. We're gonna pass by a dark mustard yellow to like a rust to orange. Yeah, we'll probably end with rust, like so that color gradient. Ombre.
I like it. I like it.
Oh my God!
Right for the world to see.
Right.
You have to understand this message. Love it.
Oh my God, that's so good. I don't even want to ask any questions. I'm just like still focused on that billboard. So Batouly, before we dive into, Wake and the children's book and just everything that I think the listeners want to hear, I want to keep them waiting a little bit longer and sort of start first with, Batouly Camara, the story of Batouly Camara. What is that story? And sort of, can you start from the beginning for us and sort of how you became this entity, this euphoric god amongst women, and men.
Right.
The first thing that I would say is when I went to Guinea this past summer, one of the women told me, and her name is Haja Sarandarba, and she did an amazing peace treaty with all West African countries. And she's an amazing woman. I would urge everyone to look her up. And she said, you have to know where you came from to know where you're going. So you understand better where you are right now.
100%.
100%. If you don't know where you come from, you'll be lost in the middle. You don't know where you're going. If you know you're going, but you don't know where you come from, there'll be no real motivation to getting there.
Right.
And so when she said that, it made a lot of things make sense. So I think it's incredibly important to start from the beginning. It probably takes too much time, but for me, the beginning felt like, I always say, learning history lessons instead of fun facts at a very early age. I had a first generation experience. My mom was from Guinea, West Africa, but she managed to bring, Guinea to New York City in a small, New York City apartment as a single parent. And the first instance of that was our language. I was, born and raised in America, but I didn't start speaking English until the age of 7. When I went to school, they were like, you've never left the country, but you don't speak English because we have a language or a dialect that's not written. We can't read or write it, so it's only passed down, verbally. And so everyone speaks it in the house, and that's how you grow up. And so it's carrying that tradition, so where you come from, so that when you return there, you understand it, And so
that's rich.
That was the beginning, that was what it was. That was, my childhood. This is, what it was like for me growing up. This is, where you're going to go back to, this is why it's so important for you to receive an education. That was the foundation. That was the backboard of my life, of my childhood.
Wow. Was there ever a sense of, because a lot of kids tend to, not a lot of kids, but there is a sense of being embarrassed if they're not part of the majority as a kid, if you seem different. Did you ever have that internally? Were you ever embarrassed about where you came from? Or was it always this sense of like pride, regardless of the schools you were in or stuff like that?
Right. Good question.
I was always embarrassed. I felt like I was always embarrassed. I was like, everyone stop embarrassing me.
Right.
Yeah. It was really cool moments. Like when I went to a really diverse elementary school, and I remember, there were a few, we had Chinese kids in our class, or we had you know, a bunch of Jewish students. And so we play like spin the dreidel. And then like, you know, some people would have, you know, like rice or like, you know, like the sticky rice. And I hated my egg sandwiches. Like my mom would be making egg sandwiches and like a spinach leaf stew. And I'm like, why are you giving me this for lunch? Like this is so embarrassing. But we'd all share lunch. Like, oh, did your mom make the spinach and stuff? Or like, did you get your egg sandwich today? And I'm like, sure. Like, can I get your sticky rice or like fish or, you know, like your chocolate or, you know, like the thin, like sliced kind of bread. So, you know, all these different things. And so that's where I grew up. So I was, you know, embarrassed, but I still had friends and a diverse group who like loved one another's food. And we learned so much at a young age. And then I remember starting to play basketball and it was tough. You know, I had a point where I was like skipping practice and wanting to go live my life in middle school. And I had my clothes cut from a different cloth. Like, you're different and you need to appreciate that now that you're not like everyone else. And I'm going to be here to support you through that journey of being who you're meant to be. And so I had that early on, like reinforced. And that was my quote for middle school. I'm cut from a different cloth. I don't need to do what you're doing. I'm cut from a different cloth. Right. Extremely painful. I had a diverse background in elementary school and then kind of stepping into my own, and sport allowed me to do that.
And sort of that pivotal moment for you was when your middle school coach said you're cut from a different cloth, and then that's like this moment where you sort of pivot and go more so. Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
I love it.
And I found friends through that. I found friends who were also cut from a different cloth. But what that means, we want to be ourselves at a young age. You know, one of my friends was from Honduras. And so her mom would have her traditional clothes. And like my mom would have their traditional clothes, and they would go outside and, you know, we'd be embarrassed until they started getting complimented. And we're like, I guess she looks nice. Like, you know, bonded through those differences. But ultimately we're just being ourselves.
Very nice. That's great. I mean, that's an amazing experience to have, and to be able to be exposed to so many different cultures and so many different lenses, so that it just broadens your perspective as just a human being, right? And you are accepting of things outside of who you are. That's amazing to me, at least. Emmett, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no, and sorry, Chinny, that I keep asking so many follow-up questions.
No, please.
Is for like, was basketball something that was always in your mind as something you were interested in? Was it introduced to you in middle school? And then when your coach says, you know, this is something that you're good at, so to speak, then you were like, oh, okay, I'll do this thing. Or was it more something that like you knew that you liked to do at a very early age? And like, what was your mom's relationship with you loving basketball and that sort of thing?
I love that question. Before I started playing basketball at the age of 11/12, because I say 11 was when I actively participated. I don't think I really played basketball. I observed the game actively, because nothing good happened during that stage. But it was, you know, for me, the introduction, you know, to basketball was something that was so brand new. I loved being involved in school. I was in the, you know, chorus. I think I had a solo for Halo that I hope no one ever hears in their life. I don't remember. I think my memory has just blocked it for me.
Yeah, we'll get our team on that. To get that
yeah, we will find that video.
I gotta stop putting that out there because I feel like the world's dangerous now. But so, you know, I was super involved. I was a part of everything. And you know, early on, I thought, okay, my biggest goal in life was, you know, and it's extremely important, but, you know, was to get married, start a family, and it was to work. Everything that was positive reinforcement in the households was, this will be good for your husband. This will be good for you.
Oh, wow.
This is important for your kids. This is, your obedience was your, like, basically how you were raised as a woman, you know, like, are you obedient? That was your value level. How obedient can you be? And so early on, I was like, you know what, like, that was it. That's what I look forward to. I still do, you know, till today, because it was so ingrained in me, was that day, you know, when you get married, that's your ultimate purpose. That's your highest achievement. And to some it is, and that's amazing. And I know I applaud them. I think it's incredible. I thank my mother every single day, and don't take that away from her at all. But that's all I saw of myself. And then when I started playing basketball, I just became like 5'8" when I was like 11. And I just shot up one day and was tall. And I saw another tall girl in the park. And I said, and I remember running the park, and I'm like, hey, where'd you get your jeans from? That was my biggest concern. Touch the floor. Where did you get it from? Tell me now. Like, I need these jeans that get to the floor. And she just looked at me and she laughed. And I thought she was a giant. I thought she was like, I'm like, this is the tallest woman I've ever seen. She's 6'3". But at the time she was so tall to me. And she's like, let's just play basketball. And that was my introduction. Like, let's play basketball. And she's like, you should try for your middle school team. And I was the only girl on the team, and I had an amazing and supportive group. And that first year I was taller than all of them. And then they went to sleep a summer, and then they all came back taller than me. And you know, that was the introduction, you know, asking someone where they got their jeans from. And now she's a great friend of mine. And she said, you should try for your middle school boys team. And then I did. And that year I tried out for my first girls AU team with the Riverside Hawks. And I had an amazing mentor who's still my mentor till today. And it was just women of color who coached me. And that was my first time being coached by women. And that was my introduction. But it was about the sisterhood. Like I said, it was active participation. I didn't go for the sport. I didn't go for that athleticism. I love being involved, but those are my sisters. I was the youngest. I was 11 on a 15U team. And they just answered all my questions. You know, they were never annoyed with me. They supported me, they encouraged me, and that's what kept me going.
Very cool.
That's so cool.
I love that basketball provided the exposure that you otherwise wouldn't have.
Absolutely.
And also provided a space for you to see the world differently, right?
I saw women working. I saw women I saw women being tenacious, being in
marriage was not your life.
Incredible.
You're saying that outside of marriage, there's a life. And so it's nice that you had that exposure. And so I want to, and this all correlates, and I want to go back to what you mentioned, or what I mentioned as well, and that is Wake. Wake is a nonprofit geared toward providing opportunities for women and girls through sport, right? So we're talking about this great evolution of Batouly through sport and seeing it differently, because she has basketball and she's running to this friend with jeans, and you want to know, hey, where'd you get those long jeans from? Which was also something that I wanted to know growing up, but. And I want people to know Wake's vision, which is that it believes in investing in girls' holistic growth through sports, fosters a chain reaction to facilitate equitable, empowered community and nations. Wake's hope is to revolutionize the game of basketball by offering a sports program that has the opportunity to reach every single girl, regardless of socioeconomic background. And for those of our listeners who don't entirely understand the scope of your work and your drive to see Wake transcend around the world, can you elaborate more about what Wake is and why it was important for you to create this nonprofit? Like, what was your true inspiration in creating Wake and these opportunities for girls and women like you?
That was it. It was, you know, everyone always says, what would you say to your younger self? And I just said, what would I do for my younger self? Who would I be for my younger self? And that was to create spaces for girls and women to dream, to see me, you know, to see sisterhood, to have that experience. And so I love that. When I wrote that mission, I wrote that in 2017 after my first trip to Guinea, and I haven't changed it. And sometimes I laugh because it was a dream. I was like, every girl should have the opportunity to know that there's a sisterhood waiting for them, that they should be a part of, that values them beyond their body, beyond their obedience, beyond their place in society, values them as who they are. And so that was my goal. Every single girl in the world should have this sport experience, good, bad, everyone, you know, for the most part, praying it's good, because sport is not always great for everyone. Keeping that in mind too, how do you facilitate safe spaces for them? But that was the biggest goal. And so early on in 2017, I visited Guinea, West Africa for the first time, and I learned so much about myself and about the girls. And I held a little basketball camp, and there was a young girl named Bintu, and she came to the gym, and she'd always come to the gym, and she'd always have a little cooler in her head, and she'd always say she was selling like little candies. And she had sell everything, you know, before she went home. It was just, you know, really tough for her. And she said to me one day, she said, I'm better than you. You know, at that time I was playing UConn. She's like, and I can go to UConn, but I need an opportunity to fight for my dreams. And I thought about the younger version of myself. You know, what if I had this drive and this love, and I never had the opportunity to fight for my dreams, to pursue it, to gain that sisterhood, to have that relationship. And that's what Bintu was ultimately asking me. And so it was for her. Even till today, I see her, and it's still for her. Every time I see her, it feels real, because she's fighting for those dreams. And who's to say you instill hope in someone with no resource, with no access, with no opportunities, for them to be better than you, you know? And so that was my motivation in 2017, to reach all the Bintus of the world, to create sisterhoods, to create opportunities for them to fight for their dreams.
It always is wonderful to hear when someone has that spark, and has that, you know, you have the general vision, but then you just have that real life situation, that person who embodies this vision that needs to be carried out, and it pushes you and it drives you to say, you know what, this can't just be a vision. It has to be something that I actually do. This is my purpose. And so to hear that in you, and to hear the driving force behind Wake, it makes it all so much real and relatable. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I'm always curious because I envy people who start nonprofits, because it is like pushing a boulder up a mountain a lot of the time, and it's such noble work. And I'm always curious, like Chinny said, like, was it something that was sort of your upbringing that led you to be like, oh, this is what I want to do? Or was there a more concrete event in your more critical thinking years as a person to be like, oh, I'm witnessing sort of the world around me, I'm more observant, this is an antidote to the world around me in some form or another? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I would say a little bit of both. When you say that, the first quote that comes to mind was, you know, don't ever underestimate the power of planting seeds. Right. And so for me, if you would have asked me, I'd be like, this was all me. But no, now that, you know, I know where I come from, it was my parents planting seeds of service. Right. They were constantly, our house was constantly full. My family was constantly supporting individuals. My mom had a great business, and she hired everyone. Even if there was no one to hire, she would hire everyone. So they had a way of being proud of the way they were making good money, you know, coming to America. And so my dad would do the same. And so they were planting seeds at a young age of what this life is. And so my favorite quote is, you know, the service you do is the rent for your room on this earth. And that was
absolutely,
like, so I love it,
I love it.
And so that was it. That was embedded in me. That's what you're here to do. And so when I went to Guinea, it was a natural progression. But that moment was a spark. And I said to myself early on, and it was a thought that came to me on the plane ride. It's not about inventing the wheel. It's about keeping it spinning where you see fit. Right. This is a place where it wasn't inventing the wheel. There are models out there. How can we keep it spinning? Because absolutely. I know how transformative it was in my life. And so I think it was a little bit of both. This moment of seeing Bintu and these girls embrace this sport, thinking about myself, but then also looking back and saying my parents were planting that in me at a very young age.
And I'll say this, and I can't speak on behalf of them, but I want to add this piece. They were planting the seeds, but you were watering them, and you will continue to water them. And that's just, it's amazing to have a foundation of parents who care enough to just really do a service to this world by creating amazing, phenomenal humans like yourself. So thank you for sharing that. So I want to pivot a bit here and dive right into a part of you, a part of who you are, and that part being that intersectionality between sports and religion, where that resides, and speak specifically about the fact that you are a Muslim woman, but not just a Muslim woman who wears a hijab. Batouly, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but Rolling Stone wrote this article in 2016 about so I want to make sure I'm saying this right. Ibtihaj Muhammad, who became the first Muslim woman athlete competing for America to wear a hijab during the Rio Olympics. As one of the most talked about Olympians in a group that included names like Michael Phelps, Simone Biles, she did her best to deflect that hyper-focus on her religion or what she wears while still competing on the world-class level. Instead, Muhammad used her platform and voice to educate as she showed grace and humility on the biggest athletic stage in the world, making history along the way by becoming the first Muslim American to stand on a podium at the Olympics, winning the bronze with her hijab. And I strongly believe that it was Muhammad's bravery, her pure athleticism, her commitment to her faith and culture that was the impetus of accepting the hijab into sports. And I think her brilliance catapulted the idea of hopefully normalizing the hijab in a world where it was so foreign for those who know nothing about Muslims, where the moments are just like, these moments are huge and profound. And my question is, were there moments in your life or your career where you met opposition because you're a Muslim woman who wore a hijab? Were there, and specifically in sports, were there tough moments where, the hijab just wasn't accepted and you had to like, really question maybe your culture, your religion, and this sport?
I still do, struggle with that question. But I think it's so important. For me, in my Islam, it was a journey of becoming, like Michelle, but it was a journey of becoming. And so I felt like internally, I wore the hijab and I covered before I did externally. That was the next step in my progression.
Wow.
But it just wasn't personal, because you share that with the world when you have a platform, when you're on the stage, you're asked to talk about it. And I feel like it was moments where I had the Ibtihaj, I had the Bilqis Abdul Qadir, the first player in the NCAA, who continued to support me in my struggle. And it was just a lot of my sisters, again, going back to that sisters who were different, who were saying, be who you are. And going back to that trip in Guinea, 2017 was such a pivotal time in my life. I remember seeing the girls, and she said to me, it's so funny, the first thing you write about yourself all the time is that you're Muslim, but how do I see that in you? How do I see that in your character first? How do I see that in the way you conduct yourself? What does it mean to be that? What does it mean if you're someone's first and only impression of that? And so I was like, what does that mean? I don't like, identities or labels, but I said, what does that mean? How do I want to live my life? And so that was my spiritual journey. And then that was the next step in my spiritual progression, was to then take a step to cover. And again, my choice, and I had sisters who supported me in that. And then, going, and you're now in this place where your journey, and people feel more comfortable and more confident to talk to you about who they are and their journey. And I think that's what hijab has allowed me to do. It has allowed people to be more comfortable in saying, I'm going to be myself, and creating that safe space wherever you are. So
tough space to be in, because even and I don't want to mess this up, but FIBA states that players shall not wear equipment or objects that cause injury to other players. And currently it prohibits the hijab, and there is a petition fighting that ban. And I'm not sure where they are now, but I know that there's a 16-year-old who was disqualified because she wore her hijab. I know there's a situation here in Maryland where there was a young lady who was a basketball player, and her coach had to ask for permission every single time to compete in a game with a hijab, and they would normally say yes, and they got to the playoffs and the refs were like, nope. So she can play in the playoffs. And so there's a lot of controversy around the hijab, and I just thank you for answering that question, because it sounds like you said, a struggle, and just that balancing act of trying to figure out where you fit because of your religion and sport. And so thank you for asking that question.
Quick story about that.
Yeah, please.
So, with that story, even in my journey of going to play professionally, so that hijab ban was, it might be 3 or 4 years old, since it's been, kind of banished and rewritten, which I'm so excited about. And Bilqis Qadir, spearheaded that along with many other amazing women. And she wanted to play professionally and didn't have the opportunity to, and it was a choice between her faith and the game that she loved, her identity in that way. And so she spearheaded this. And again, for me, I wasn't even thinking about hijab at the time. I was like, I'm just doing my thing, and years later, I remember my first agent was like, I don't know where you're going, but you can't wear that on your head. You can do anything. But that was it. That was my first agent. And I signed, and I was like, oh my gosh, I made the biggest mistake of my life. Is this happening to me? And then I went and I found another agent, and he's like, you know what, can you play basketball? And I was like, yes. He's like, okay, well, that works for me. And I said, that was my biggest goal. I want to go to a safe country. And I ended up in Spain. And I remember talking to Bill Keese, and I said, Keese, I'm in Spain. And she said, you're representing us at the highest level. And I've always wanted to go to Spain. That was my country. And so for her to 2 years earlier, fight for a hijab ban, to lift the hijab ban that I didn't know would benefit me as the first player in Spain to play hijab, was a really full circle moment.
Wow.
And we celebrated that in so many ways.
Can you say her name one more time so the listeners can hear?
Are there. So yeah. So I am because, you know, we are.
Was
Ubuntu.
Facts, Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Was it in that moment, before we do the lightning round, I just want to, in that moment, do you feel the ramifications of that moment during that? Or is it something that is, after the game is over, you're kind of like the residual effects start to hit you like a ton of bricks?
Both. Both. But one thing about when that ball goes up, everything is forgotten. You know, the anticipation is to warm up. It's then it goes up and it's like boom.
Boom. Just playing.
Like,
I
love it.
I love that. Yeah. So yes, I mean, I think we're ready. And I just want to say one quick thing. Definitely played in Spain. I played in Spain for 6 years, so I know the feeling. Big ups to our Spain listeners, if there are any. Hopefully there are. Emmett, I'm ready. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Let's take that exhale before we dive right back in, you know? So, Batouly, we do this thing also that is a good exhale from the conversation. We talk about a lot of heavy stuff on here. We like to get uncomfortable a little bit too, because that's where true growth happens, is seeking that discomfort. But we also like to have fun here. And one of the best ways to do that is our drum roll, please. Jenny, give us that drum roll. Lightning round. Lightning round. Basically, you'll have 3 to 20 seconds, but mostly 3 seconds to answer a series of questions as fast as you can. And I always say, don't worry about the answers. We'll only judge you very heavily based on each answer. So
exactly.
Nothing less.
Yes. Okay. I'm excited, Emmett. I got my pen.
I'm ready. You got the pen? You ready? You got the clock ready?
I got the clock. Woohoo! Okay. Let's do this.
All right, let's dive in. All right, Batouly, would you rather score a game winner at home or away?
Away.
Yeah. Nice. I like it.
Silencer. What was the last thing that made you smile?
PeacePlayers podcast.
Oh! Yes.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay.
Morning bird or night owl?
Morning bird.
Oh, nice.
Cats or dogs?
Neither.
No, you gotta pick one.
You gotta pick one.
Cats, I suppose.
Incorrect. No. Spring or autumn?
Autumn.
Ooh, nice.
Ooh, yeah.
Turning of the leaves.
Pancakes, waffles, or French toast?
Pancakes.
Okay.
Bungee jumping or zip lining?
Bungee jumping.
Really?
Ooh.
I'm sorry.
Ooh.
I'm sorry.
White sand beaches or sky piercing mountains?
Ooh, beaches.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Space travel or deep sea travel?
Space.
Never.
But
$1 million or 3 wishes. And the only caveat here is that in the 3 wishes, if you choose that, you cannot wish for more wishes.
Exactly.
Or $1 million.
Or $1 million, yes.
3 wishes.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Superhero or supervillain?
Superhero.
Oh, nice.
Singing or dancing?
Oof. I mean, my Halo debut. Dancing. Go dancing.
Dancing, okay.
They're the people.
Reading or writing?
Reading.
Nice.
Last meal that you had that made you go, wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, acheque. I love that meal.
Acheque. What's that?
It's like a cassava and a fish and then plantain. So.
Hey, I love
it. I went, sure.
Right. Okay.
Last thing you learned from someone else?
Oh, I like this.
Ooh. I think, what's her name? Michaela Cole, visibility does not equate to success.
Ooh.
Yeah, she said that in her speech, and I loved it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Visibility does not equate to success. I love it.
You writing that down, Chinny? You writing that down?
Yes, I am actually.
Okay. One person who inspires you.
My mom.
Nice.
Everyone.
And then one thing you want all of our listeners to remember from today.
You have everything you need to be great. So go be great.
Yes. Very
Don't
nice.
look outside of yourself. You have it all within you.
Very nice.
And what's seeking
Absolutely.
you, what you're seeking is also seeking you. So seek it out.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And with that, Batouly, you got to the lightning round in flying colors. Well done.
Good job.
Very
nice. Very nice. Thank you. So I had
wasn't
a
so
good
bad.
Time. No, you
bad,
you got through it, right?
You had fun. She's like,
she's like, I gotta reevaluate, but no. So I want to take what we were talking about earlier a step further, and Emmett touched on it just a bit, and that, you know, Nike gets this grand idea, right, to announce their launch of the Pro Hijab. I'm curious now to know what is going on in your mind as a Muslim woman. Is there this sigh of relief, like, yes, we are finally getting the recognition we deserve? Or is it more like been there, done that types of things, and like, you know, okay, this is happening, or is it nothing? Or maybe it's just none of those things. Maybe it's something like, it's just, okay, you're trying to gather your thoughts on what this means for your life and the whole perspective of Islam and the world.
Amazing question. So the first thing that I thought about was I was already searching for hijab. So I was heartbroken for small companies, you know, for those small businesses who had started this and wouldn't get that recognition. I was heartbroken for them because it was important. Then I was, you know, kind of like, why is Nike doing this? And then I, you know, dig into my marketing. I said, there's a huge market for it. So then third, it was, well, first, you know, women are just, you know, especially Muslim women are being more active. And so this is a huge market to tap into. Second was, now there's a high quality product out there. Not that there wasn't before, but kind of a high quality product that was familiar to many that's now easily and readily available. So now that more who have been, you know, struggling with it, or struggling with the hijab, now feel like, okay, I have the resources and the equipment to play sports or to get active. So I, you know, thought about that and was optimistic and was really excited. And in that feature, Ibtihaj is so amazing. And, you know, alongside so many other women, you know, donated hijabs.
Very
really
wonderful.
Exciting for our camps. So that was really exciting.
Very nice. Yeah.
So the mix of emotion and mix of emotions.
I love that. I love that. And it's one thing I think that came to mind, not being a Muslim woman and just understanding what you've said. And I was thinking of this when you were saying it. It's also a platform. It's a platform where people who probably never even knew such hijab existed would be like, oh, okay. And so I just think about that and just the platform and the people that it will reach, and like you said, quality and different things like that. But I want to speak a bit about your guiding light, your parents. You mentioned them being the seeds earlier. And I read, and correct me if I'm wrong, that your parents have a strong belief in education and opportunity. New opportunity in specific. Is there a correlation between the belief system your parents uphold and how you live your life, striving to provide education and equitable opportunities for the young women and girls you serve? And so that's my question. Or because you have so many phenomenal attributes, right? You are doing things that people are not doing. Like, it's unheard of, the things that you've done at your age and the things that you will continue to do, I would say. And so I just want to know, like, how is that? I know you said your parents are the root, but are you continually thinking of them as you are stepping out into the world and you're serving something greater than yourself?
Every single day. And so I think, you know, I always title my years. And so last year was really like a big part of, where do you come from? you know? And I think sometimes you ever pick up a skill or you do something new and you're like, you're so good at it, like you're freakishly good at it. And you're like, and, you know, everyone's like, oh, you're past, like, you know, I don't believe that, but like, you know, you're past life. And it's like, you know, like maybe I was doing that, but it feels like such an innate skill. Right. And I'm like, where did this come from? And then you figure out like that one aunt you had in the family was like a master, like, you know, yeah. like that. And you're like, okay, you know, because it feels so natural to you. And you're like, where did this come from? I'm really good at this. I never knew I had the skill. So that's how I kind of felt about education. I was not great at education, but I loved learning. And I learned that I got that from both my parents. They had a love of learning, constantly curious, always answer my questions. That was really important to them. And so, you know, coming in early, my dad had a double PhD, one from Russia, one from France, and it loved school, honestly. He was loving school. And so I had that background, and my mom was the same, like, you know, everyone, your basketball can leave, everything can leave, but education, what you know, what you receive, no one can take that away from you. So make sure you pursue that. And so, you know, last year it was that journey. And so, you know, I finished my master's. I was like, I'm done. I'm never going back. Like, don't even call me, like, ever. And like, I spent like a month writing a paper, and I'm like, this is going to be a struggle. And then I had a moment of where do I come from? And I love education. I love learning. And so I decided to seek out a doctorate program, and, you know, I was accepted to
nice.
Amherst.
Congratulations.
And so hopefully I'll be starting there in a year. And I think that was, you know, like go to the end. You know, it was playing professionally in basketball. And my coach would always say something, and I think that's the bigger story. My coach, you know, at Connecticut would always say, how you do one thing is how you do everything. My parents taught me, you know, strive for the highest, where that was basketball or academically. And so being able to play at that level in Spain was incredible. And so hopefully y'all pray for me. I can do the same. And I think that
you will.
Where I look back and I ask, you know, I hope, you know, I made you both proud, and what you tried to plan.
Very awesome.
No, trust me, you will not disappoint. Me and Chinny know that for a fact.
Yes,
we have the utmost faith in you in succeeding in the future. So that's kind of what I want to talk about, Chinny, and Batouly is sort of the future for you. I love the idea that you have titles for each of your years. I think that's a genius, sort of cool tidbit about who you are as a person and sort of how you view the world around you. And sort of, you said that, you know, last year was Where Do You Come From as the title of that. And sort of my question is, it's kind of a two-part question. What are next steps for you future wise for expanding operations in terms of the school, in terms of the book, in terms of like what, because it is interesting to think about, like you found Wake, and then it's like, why go with a children's book and then go with the school? And it's like, what's sort of the end all be all connection between all of those things, and where's it going?
Who do you want to reach? Who do you want to impact?
Exactly.
The word that comes to my heart, I'm trying to think of my mind, but the word that comes to my heart is just bigger. Nice. You know, bigger, like just gratitude, but bigger. You know, like, you know, that's the word that just feels natural, feels right. But for next projects for Wake, this was such a transformative summer. You know, Guinea, we're going through our own things right now, but this is a great summer for us. Right. And, you know, we were able to pitch this project, and, you know, by just God's will, we were able to receive 5 acres of land to expand Wake Academy. And so that was a gracious, bigger gift. And I was like, this is crazy. So now working to build our second basketball court, working to really stabilize on programming and the work that we do. And the biggest thing I would say was, in that lesson, was learning everyone's love language, like learning the cultural love language. And so initially I thought it was monetary, which I think it is, but right now I've realized it's words of affirmation. People want to be a part of something bigger, and that went further than anything I could have paid. You know, for those who just love it, they're like, do you know why I'm in this work? Right. Like, you know, like maybe it's for this, maybe for that, but I'm a community leader who's been doing this for X amount of years, and I just want to have my name on this. Like, and so being able to do that and have our community leaders at the forefront was a huge, huge step. So right now, just bigger, you know, right now, like I said, working to finish up a basketball court. building another basketball court and
trying
to get the academy underway. And it's been really exciting. So the word from me is bigger.
I love it. I love it. And Batouly, I'm not sure if you have time for one more question, but, and I want to say this, I hear bigger, you say bigger, I hear limitless.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you say bigger, but I say limitless. And so we'll talk about that later, but I'm not sure. Do you have time for one more question before we wrap up?
Yes.
Okay, just the last question here. And you touched on this earlier, but I think this is so important. It's imperative for our listeners to hear. But speak to that young girl who hasn't gotten their hands on your book yet, A Basketball Game on Wall Street, again. That's just trying to figure
Wake Street.
Oh, Wake Street, yeah, A Basketball Game on Wake Street, excuse me. That's just trying to figure out her place in a world that doesn't entirely accept her, the hijab, her religion, living in a world that isn't educated about Islam, that isn't open to all parts of her life or what her life embodies, a world that is unaware of the importance of what we say at PeacePlayers here, seeing people as people. And that just means seeing the humanity in others. We're really big on that here, and that's one of our core values. Speak to her because she loves sports and wants to pursue this dream, but she doesn't know where to go and how to keep focus on her vision. What would your message be to her?
So that's the thing I probably didn't answer in the last question. I really believe in, diversity of thought, but also diversity in resources. How are you getting your message across? Not everyone, sometimes I read, sometimes I write, sometimes I need a podcast, sometimes I need a movie, sometimes I need to go out to dinner. Like, how are you diversifying the resources you provide? So for us, it was, really having diversity of thought and experiences. I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to travel and to see sisterhood at a whole new level, and for every girl to reach that sport experience. And so that was our first mission. That was my first mission statement, but it hasn't changed. It's for every girl to reach each other, to have a sport experience. And I realized that doesn't always have to be physical. I love books because books can travel. Books can help you travel. I remember reading books and feeling like I was in a different space. I learned, I grew just from sitting in my living room. And so I said, what is a way to reach those, every single girl through a sport experience that may not be physical, that can be mental, that can be through a book. And so that was A Basketball Game on Wake Street. It was encompassing all of my amazing sport experiences, everywhere I was able to travel in one book. This was the game that I knew and grew to love. It was a sisterhood that I shared of players who I knew who were in the Paralympic space, those who wore hijab, those who were on the artistic space, those who were, using sign language in their games. That was the basketball I fell in love with, where everyone, was there. And the biggest comments that I received from the book is, I see myself, or where am I? That pushes me to grow. That pushes me to say, you're there to write your own book. I hope this stems that, or say, I'm happy that you see yourself, because there's so many girls who are willing and excited to experience you and to know you. And so to create a shared experience through this book, and now work at our social and emotional learning curriculum to really get into schools and to talk about it, and to have tough conversations with our kids early, because if we have them, they may not always be tough conversations. It's part of life. And so having them early, I think, and gaining that dialogue is important. And so everyone in the Basketball Game on Wake Street is someone that I know personally, someone who has drawn me closer to the game, closer to myself, and closer to this world. And so I want to be able to share that with the world. And the second aspect is, again, diversity of resources. So we have the book right now. It's available as an ebook in Spanish, and we're working to print it now in French. And to do the same, diversity of resources is really, really important through language, through thought, and through material.
Right. So you hear that? The message,
and all the funds go to Wake. So
hello.
Buy that book, people.
Right. And the message is there for you. And that's the drop the mic moment. Understanding that you are here, you belong, and the life that you are going to live is limitless. And that being said, I know you have to go. So we are so thankful that you've been on the show. Thank you so much for being here with us, Emmett.
Yeah, I just want to say, like everything you're doing with Wake, and Chinny's going to emphasize this with me, is so similar to what we're trying to do at PeacePlayers. And you guys have both said it, seeing people as people. And like you said, Batouly, this idea that if you're working for something bigger than yourself, there's sort of this infectious sort of engine that will never go out internally for you. And that to me is just exactly what we're trying to do at PeacePlayers. Is everybody who works at PeacePlayers is fallen in love with PeacePlayers message because it's bigger than themselves. And that's the driving force behind expanding everything, preaching the values that we have. And you're just a testament to just a different avenue of that. And it's incredible to finally see you and talk to you. We've been texting a lot, but like, you're truly an inspirational person. And
thank you so much. Thank you.
We serve as mirrors and windows. So whatever you see in me is what you see in you. Looking into it, a reflection of that. So thank you for this experience, for this reflection of light. And this has been, such a joy, such a treat. I'm so thankful for this opportunity. So thank you.
Thank
now,
you.
Batouly, do you have any plugs that you want to share? Where can people follow you? Where can people find out about Wake Academy / the book? What you got?
Hey, website, www.wake-academy.org. Book available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Smashwords, hyperactive on Instagram. Not recently, but I'll get there. At Toolyyy, Toolyyy. The last Y is because I'm so extra. Wake, of course, all underscores. And on any other platform that you see me by, just add me and I'll be there. So looking forward to connect with you all. And if there's anything beyond that, please feel free to send me a DM. I promise I'll work to respond because we're all connected. So
yes, we are. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
She has that extra Y because she's special, people. That's it.
That's it. Right. And extra, she said extra. Okay. Thank you so much. And that's it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening and joining us on this most amazing journey. If you like what you heard, we encourage you to like and subscribe. We've got so many more great conversations and stories to come in the coming weeks, and we're excited to share them with you. Share with a friend, like I always say, or leave a review like, I just forgot the name. Emmett, tell me the name.
Oh, Parthenon, though. Parthenon
97, who says, love every minute of this, eye-opening and change-inducing. Both the hosts have silky voices. Can't wait to hear more. I've never been told that I have a silky voice.
Yes, but I appreciate it.
I love it. Yeah. So yeah, Emmett, what do you have to add? Because today's show.
Oh, that's an incredible review. I mean, I'm gonna have to. That review is going to be playing on repeat in my head for the rest of the day. So that's good. Thank you, Chinny. Batouly is such a kind soul, and she's someone oh my God, is such a remarkable woman. It was incredible to talk to her.
Very nice. Good energy too.
Great energy. And guys, if you want to learn more about PeacePlayers and what we're doing, visit our website and follow us on social media, mostly at PeacePlayers International. That's on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, maybe even a MySpace and a Tumblr and a Visco. Just kidding. Season 2, and I'm still doing the same joke. So that's cool. And the voice crack, so that's good as well.
It adds elements to it.
Chinny, I got to lay down.
I know you do.
I know you do. Gotta lay down.